Alright, so Bolo has just dropped a video talking about the native instrument situation and really asking, do you need to be getting hardware in case that these big VST plugin companies start to go under? So let's watch it and we'll respond in kind.
Let's get to the topic at hand. I got some questions, y'all. And even though it looks like Native Instruments has this kind of sorted out in a sense, which I really don't know, I hope that they get it sorted out because I'm really hoping that they can give us some more MIDI controllers and some.
Yeah, to be honest, I think this native instrument situation, I don't think they're actually gonna disappear off the face of the earth. I think most likely, when they're going into pre-insolvency or whatever it is, from my understanding, it really means that another company will probably buy them out and try to revive it. I don't think they're just going to disappear and nobody will be able to sort of access the sounds that, contact banks and things like that. Because I think, to be honest, it would be absolutely insane the amount of money that people have invested into native instruments in terms of producers, and then they just disappear and they can't use that stuff anymore. That's not right.
Another standalone controller, hopefully, and they can continue to pump out some really good sounds and some really good effects and stuff like that. And I hope that none of that goes under, which they're saying that everything should be cool, but we don't know. We don't know. And the thing about it is, could this happen to other companies? And that's a possibility that we have to, kind of think about, because we have to realize that right now the economy is a little bit different, and people are not buying things like how they used to because of inflation and a lot of other issues as well.
Yeah, it makes a good point. I mean, I always feel like, though, if somebody wants something bad enough, they'll get it. Like, it's not like back in the day when we were using FL Studio 4 or whatever, 5, when, everyone was using cracked copies of everything and stuff like that. Like, now stuff doesn't even work if you're not using legitimate copies, and there's, all these auto updates and, like, subscription models and all that stuff. It just doesn't really work anymore.
Producers right now, do you guys think that, you should go out and start buying some hardware gear just in case something like this could happen to your favorite developer?
I don't know about that, man. I think it's a bit extreme. And big shout out to Bolo as well. I love Bolo, man. He's a great guy, great producer. He's got a great channel. Make sure you go follow him. But I think to say that people would automatically need to start buying hardware. If you're saying that they can't afford plugins, yeah, if they can't afford contact banks or whatever the case may be, they're definitely not going to be able to afford hardware. Yeah, I mean, the profit is like £3,000. You've got the profit Rev 2 for 2,000. They're a lot of money, man. Let's see how much the MPCs are, The Live 3 is 1,400. Most plugins that I've bought have been way less than that. So he makes a good point, but I think to suggest like getting hardware is the answer, I don't know, man. I think if people can't afford the plugins, they're not going to be able to buy the hardware.
And my answer to that is, and I want you guys to let me know in the comment section, and my answer to that is, yeah, I think that you should at least have one or two pieces of hardware in your inventory just in case if anything happens. Now, I'm not saying nothing's going to happen right now. I'm not saying that's going to happen today or whatever, but you have to think, with a company like Native Instruments, with that happening, with this whole situation happening to them, it could happen to anybody. So do you think hardware right now is something that you may be thinking about to get just to kind of future-proof yourself just in case if anything happens? Because I got all the new stuff right here, but I do have older stuff as well. I still have my Motif ES rack. I still have my MPC 2500. I still have some old compressors and stuff and storage and all that stuff like that. I still have old digital recorders as well. And of course, you can record onto your iPhone and stuff like that and send beats to it like that now. So you have ways of getting around if anything happens. Now, I'm not necessarily saying about DAWs, okay? I think DAWs are not going to be too much affected because, even though that some DAWs are not as prevalent as how they used to be, but I don't think the DAWs will be affected. But I am kind of concerned about a lot of plug-in companies. I'm concerned about sound generating companies, like people who make sounds, and companies that make controllers and stuff like that as well. I'm pretty much concerned about it all, but it's certain things that's happened in the past couple months. Of course, with the Fender situation, and now with the Native Instruments situation, I don't think anybody's safe from this type of situation that can happen in the near future. So I want to ask you guys is, for the people who do not own any type of hardware units, are you starting to think that maybe, I might need to get me some hardware?
No, definitely not, man. Not for me personally. I don't have any hardware as such, but I'm not sort of thinking to myself, well, what I really need to do right now is go out and buy a Prophet or, some crazy synthesizers, because I've seen it before, like producers, they buy that stuff and then they think, oh, I'll just use the plugins. You know what I mean? So like if it was a case that there's never going to be a situation, I don't believe, where plugins just disappear off the face of the earth. You know, the VSTs are there for a reason. And like I say, if people can't afford them VSTs, they're not going to be buying hardware. So yeah, I don't think it's the right sort of answer. But it'd be interesting to see how it does sort of plan out, because I think, like I say, most likely, if they can't sort it out on their own with this massive debt that they've got, they're most likely going to get, you know, bought out by another company. So
just in case, you know. And I want to just, you know, ask you guys that, you know, question just in case, because like
yeah, but it's just in case. It's a lot of money, bro. You know what I mean? Like, it's a lot of money to invest in something just in case. You know, like, who's got... I would love one of them. I would love one of them profits, but at the end of the day, it's $3,000. You know what I mean? Like, you could do a lot of things with $3,000. So we've all got bills to pay and stuff like that. Obviously, Bolo's established and, you know, he's been in the game a very long time, but, you know, it's not taking anything away from him. But, yeah, I think the general population in terms of the producer community are going to struggle to invest that kind of money, man. And like I said, what happens with all of the people who've invested money into plugins and like sound banks and stuff like that, like, and it's not just Native Instruments anyway. We've got Serum, we've got Omnisphere, we've got Keyscape, we've got loads of different plugins available. I don't think they're all in that similar situation. I think a part of the problem with Native Instruments is everything is just so expensive. You know, and I get, like, Keyscape is expensive, with Spectrasonic stuff is expensive, but once you've got it, you've got it. Like, these Native Instruments guys just keep adding stuff on and on and on and on and on, and people just keep going back there and buying it. I think maybe it's a business model issue. I don't know.
with me, you know, if anything was to happen, which I do not wish that upon anybody, okay? If anything was to happen, I still got sounds in all of these keyboards, and I have sounds in my MPCs. I got, you know, stuff ready to go if anything was to happen, okay? And I can still produce at a pretty decent level, pretty high level with all this stuff right here, okay? Still do it with my motif and my older MP. I can still produce, add samples to it, do everything if everything was to stop right now. So that's the way I look at it in that sense, okay? Like, okay, if anything was to happen, I still got my hardware to back me up in a sense. And I want to know if you guys are considering that, because, you know I get on here and, you know, I try to sell stuff to y'all from sounds.com and Guitar Center and all these places, which I do have links in the video description if you do need some stuff. But at the end of the day, I've always been somebody who has tried to look at both sides of the fence when it comes to doing stuff in the DAW and doing stuff in a hardware setup. Now, we can debate if it's truly analog or not and all that good stuff, which is cool. But we still know that if anything was to happen, if everything was to go downhill, we still could use this hardware and still produce. It's almost like if you own a guitar. If anything happened, you can still pick up that guitar, you can still play it, as long as you have strings on it that work. Do you guys think that this could happen to other big companies in the audio world? Or are you guys concerned that this can happen to other bigger companies in this audio space, knowing that a lot of these companies are under like these huge umbrella companies, or they're under an investment company in a sense? Do you guys think that this is something that could happen in the future with other companies?
Yeah, I mean, it could definitely happen, but, like, I don't know. Like I say, I don't know what's exactly gone on with Native Instruments and stuff. Like, I don't know all of the details, but I just feel like it's maybe getting blown out of proportion a bit. You know, they're not just going to disappear off the face of the earth. Like, they can't do that. They can't do that to the customers they've had for so many years.
My question is, how can this be avoidable for companies? How can these companies avoid having these type of issues? Should they be more innovative? Should they be listening more from what, you know, of what we're asking? Or should a lot of these companies scale back and just go back to the basics of what they are? If you're just a software company, you just deal with software. If you're a hardware company, you should just deal with hardware.
Yeah, man, that's a really good point as well. I think, you know, lots of producers do this as well. Like, it's a bit like a producer making every single genre there is, you know, because they're spreading themselves too thin, man. You know, and then there just becomes too many things going on.
Should companies try to kind of dibble dabble with certain things, or should they just be who they are?
I think it's cool for them to try different things, but, like, people go to that company for a certain thing. You know what I mean? Like, I go to contact banks because they're really good. Like, they sound amazing. I go to Keyscape for the keys. You know, I go to Omnisphere for certain, like, ambient textures and bell tones and things. Like, I go to certain plugins for specific reasons.
That's why I always say you should always get you a few pieces of hardware, just in case, because you never know what could happen. All right? So y'all let me know in the comment section.
Spend $3,000 on the profit just in case. I'm joking, man. I'm joking. Nah, he's made some really good points. Big shout out to Bolo. Make sure you go follow him as well. But I do honestly think everything's going to be fine for the producers in this regard. So yeah, man, don't worry about it.